Good afternoon, everyone. The good news is this is the last session before lunch, so excited to do that. So over the next 15 odd minutes, what I'm going to talk about is what's happening in the influencer marketing space and some quick tips for all of you who really want to try and do that. Can I click? All right, great. So, if you look at the entire space that's there, obviously Instagram and YouTube to a large extent dominate that space. There is, of course, Twitter. There's, of course, even LinkedIn today has creators. But obviously, these two platforms on both ends, which is Instagram and YouTube, to a large extent sort of have the lion's share when it comes to engagement and users, and also the entire influencer marketing space. And if you look at some of the newer apps, right, they do claim to have users and engagement, but I would say they're still at a very early stage. So I would tread with caution with using some of these apps, but they do have users. These numbers are users that they have reported themselves saying this is the number of users they have. So definitely it's scaling. And these are the ones that also reach the markets that I think somebody asked Arjun, how do you reach a rural market, right? How do you reach a tier 2, tier 3 city? You can do that through Instagram and YouTube, but also through many of these apps that you actually see here. And if you take a step back, right, digital today is probably the fastest growing, and it's expected to actually be equal to television this year and be larger than television advertisements next year onwards in India. So it's a very exciting time for all of us in the digital space. So that also means that all of you out there, you need to be able to invest into digital as much as you are in many of the other channels that you're probably doing in terms of print or other channels as well. And in the digital space, this is the ecosystem, right? There's a lot that Google and the social media players take up, and there's, of course, the other players as well. So the influencer marketing piece that we're really talking about is a subset of that 31%. It's a subset of the entire market. And that market today is about 1,200 crores, right? And it's bound to become a $1 billion opportunity in India over the next sort of 2 to 3 years. So it's an exciting space, and even for us as a business, the influencer marketing space is actually the fastest growing. And why I'm sharing some of these numbers is also because it is something that you should be leveraging for your business if you're not already doing it. And now I'll shift to talking a bit about some of the tips that actually can help you do that. Today, the influencers are the voice, right? And if you look at what used to happen back in the day, you actually had your friends recommending products, you had family recommending products. You would walk into a retail store, and the retail store would actually recommend products to you, right? The store owner or somebody at the store would actually recommend products to you. Today, we get a lot of that information from creators, from influencers. Some of them may not be completely real because they are obviously paid promotions, but users do look at them as a voice. They want to understand from those creators as to what's happening. So that's something that definitely can be sort of leveraged. Yeah. And where should you use influencer marketing, right? And if we take a quick MBA class here of what we call as the marketing funnel, where you actually have a lot of people that know about you, which is at the top, or what we call as awareness. And then you have the middle level where you look at consideration or sort of building that momentum for your brand, for your products. And eventually you get them to act on it. Eventually you get them to buy. Eventually you get them to come to your store. Eventually you get them to buy your service or inquire for your service. And today you can use influencer marketing across all those three phases. You can actually help it. It actually helps in helping you build your brand. You can actually create a lot of sort of content as well and virality, and I'll show you some examples of that. And what we've also seen is, even when you're trying to sell something, if you can actually create content with these creators, it can do wonders for your brand, for your product. And often what we've seen is many brands look at it from the top part of it, which is the brand awareness, where you say, I'm going to use a creator to actually create brand awareness and engagement. But actually, the way we would look at it is, can you create different content with different creators across the entire funnel that you see here? And that's really how you sort of start using this more effectively. So the first question we often get asked is, how do you select an influencer? How do you really go out there and actually decide who's relevant to you? Today, there are many platforms and tools that help you discover. There's influencer.in, there's One Impression, there's Kuros. There are many others that actually help you do this. But the first and most important definitely is the size and the quality, right? So it's not just the size that matters, but also the quality of the users itself, because you'll see that from the kind of content, the kind of engagement that they actually begin. So the size and quality often is definitely the first and big piece. The second is the engagement rate, because that tells you, are users actually engaging with this content? Are they actually liking the content that the creator has? And are they able to actually interact with it in a meaningful manner? And the third piece is very important as well, right? The relevancy, because the creator might be great for, let's say, Marico, but may not be great for ITC, because maybe there are different kinds of brands, different ethos. So somebody might be good for Dot and Key, but the same influencer may not be good for Dr. Vaidya's, right? And that's how you need to look at it, is the creator relevant to your brand, to your genre, and what you do? The previous performance data is something you may not have, but the platforms have it, right? So a lot of the platforms I mentioned earlier, influencer.in or One Impression, they have data of which creators have actually created impact. And that's really one of the reasons why you should also use one of these tools to actually get data from them. Quality of content, I think, is understood. You need to have great content. And while price is important, the affordability is important, you need to take the entire piece into the mix, right? Because the better the size, the better the quality, the higher the engagement rate, they are going to be more expensive, but they're also going to be more impactful for the brand that you have. And the second challenge we often hear is, how much should I pay, right? Somebody has 1 lakh followers. The second creator also has 1 lakh followers, but they're charging me 2 different prices. Why, right? So it actually comes down to the previous slide that I showed, right? So the size and quality might be the same, but the rest of the metrics for those creators will be very different. And that means you need to be able to have a measurement to do this. So there is a tool, you can check it out later if you want. There is a tool that allows you to do the price index, where you can actually put the Instagram handle or the YouTube handle, and you can actually figure out what is the fair price that that creator should actually be charging you, right? It's still not perfect, but it gives you a direction, it gives you a sense of whether you're being, being told the right price by the creator or not. The genre is also very important, right? Because you also want to collaborate with the right creators who are in that space. And there are many spaces that are growing, many spaces that are not. But it doesn't mean it has to be bucketed. For example, for a real estate brand, we actually went and collaborated with multiple cooking and bakery creators. And we told those bakery creators to actually create homes using the cake, right? So they made home-shaped cakes of different size, shapes, colors. And that's interesting content for a real estate player to showcase on their Insta handle, right? So it doesn't mean a real estate builder needs to only work with someone who's talking about investments or finance. You should be able to broaden that, but in the context of the campaign that you want to run and what you want to do. And the channel also differs, right? Because it depends on what you want to do. If you are creating content which is evergreen, content that you want to stay on for much longer, then actually YouTube might be a better channel than Instagram for you, because that's how those platforms are. If you want to search for something on Instagram, it's very, very difficult. Can I go and find something that I saw 2 weeks ago? Very difficult, unless I remember the brand and whose content I saw. So the content on these channels work very differently. On Instagram, it's short-lived. On YouTube, it's not. So you also need to understand and figure out what is the objective of the content and the campaign that you're doing. And accordingly, you will then figure out which channel also makes sense for you, because it doesn't, you may have the right creator, but if you get the wrong channel, that's going to be a challenge for you as well. So the right creator with the right channel is also very, very important. I'm going to show you some quick sort of campaigns in the awareness stage, consideration stage, and at the bottom of the funnel stage. So this is actually for a brand, a marketplace that you may all be aware of, Tata Click. This was a campaign to just create awareness. We were not selling anything. The purpose was to create virality, to work with celebs and mid-level influencers to bring this to life. I'll show you a quick glimpse of the campaign as well. But we worked with some celebrities, but we also worked with micro-influencers. And that's also how you balance affordability. You don't need to work only with celebs and forget the micro-influencers, right? So if you're able to combine those two, you also are able to get a lot more impact for the campaigns that you actually do. So I'll show you the video on the next slide. Can we check if the video is playing? Can we check if the video is playing here? Maybe it's not queued in, so I can maybe tell you what it does. So we created this challenge called the Show Them You Know Them Challenge. Here you see the celebs, Neena Gupta and Masaba Gupta, where they both were basically interacting to figure out who knows who better. And we took different pairs. We took the mother-daughter duo that you see here. We actually took sister and brother. We actually took colleagues. We actually took a husband and wife. And we started creating virality around this because we wanted others to also take this challenge amongst themselves, their friends, their families. And that's really how we started creating engagement for Tata Click. And again, this is one of the most successful campaigns. We've gone on to do about 25 different campaigns with creators and influencers at the epicenter of those campaigns. And that's one of the key strategies for brands like Tata Click to actually build virality and engagement. And some of it can also be product specific, right? So if you look at the consideration stage, you can also do things specific to the category or the products that you're doing. In this case, actually, we were launching the perfume category on Tata Click, and we wanted to actually bring that fragrance to life visually, through videos, through images. So we gave each creator one fragrance and said, hey, can you bring that fragrance to life visually? And that's what you see on the grid there. And again, these are the ways to kind of build interesting campaigns for the brand. I think, again, I'm not sure the video is there, but if it's not. So one of the other ways that brands today use influencer marketing and creators is actually to fuel their sort of social media content. Because at some point, you don't know how much content is required, and you need daily content for your social handles. So that's another way to actually do that. So one of the things we did here was actually get creators to actually take over our handle and create content for it. And that becomes a way to also fuel your entire social media strategy. And this can also be on the supply side, right? So we've done some amazing campaigns with Swiggy to actually get delivery partners to engage with us, right? And we did this through user-generated content. So what we did was we went to TikTok, and this was when TikTok was around, but we actually leveraged TikTok to take out talent from Swiggy delivery partners. So they were actually creating videos of mimicry, of dancing, of acting, and we actually got 100 million organic views on TikTok. And this is going to people who are in the network of the delivery partners. So it's actually showing to prospective delivery partners of Swiggy. And the reason to do this, again, was to actually engage with them to make Swiggy a top priority for them, right? Because they have a choice to work with Zomato or Dunzo or Zepto or whoever else. And so even on the supply side and even on the B2B side, there are many interesting ways to actually leverage this. And also bottom of the funnel, like I said. And one true value of actually using creators is also amplifying that once you create it. So don't leave it just on the creator's handle. So they may post it on their own handles, but take the content from them, take the rights to actually run media campaigns on them. And we've actually seen that to be a very, very effective strategy. So you use their creative assets, the creative assets that the creator is making, and use it in your own marketing campaigns and your own performance campaigns. And if you ask me, this is one big takeaway. If you were to ask me, what would you take away from this session? This is what you should actually go back and do and see how it actually impacts your performance. Another stat that you may want to think about, 93% of content that Indians watch on YouTube is not in English. 93%. only 7% of content that Indians watch on YouTube is actually English. And what that means is if you are doing your influencer campaigns only in English, then you're missing out 93% of that audience, right? You may be catering only to the 7%, that's great, but many brands cater to maybe 20, 30% of that audience. And that means you need to be able to do things in Bengali, in Hindi, in many other languages that may be relevant to you. For some of our top brands, we actually do it in 10 to 12 different languages, and that's what actually gives the best impact. The last part is attribution, right? And we get asked, how do you measure all this, right? The journey today is so complex. Somebody might be starting on the mobile, going on the desktop. They have multiple devices, multiple journeys over a period of time. How do you track all of this? Frankly, it's very difficult. There are tools, there are ways to do it, but it's not that straightforward. So you need to be able to have some mid-level metrics that matter to you. It could be, how many visitors you're getting, how many add to carts you're getting if you're an e-commerce company. But eventually, it's about building a brand. A brand is not built in a single day or a single month. It's a journey, and that's how you look at influencer marketing to a large extent as well. So 3 quick takeaways. This is my last slide. Look at influencer marketing across the funnel. Like I said, don't look at just brand marketing or brand awareness. Actually create content which is to build consideration. Show them the reasons to buy. Use your creators to show the reasons to buy and use them across the entire funnel that you have. The second would be, once you get that content from them, amplify it with your own media. Put in money to actually reach more people, because if you're going to leave it only to the creator's reach, you'll only get a small size. But you can reach a much larger audience if you put money behind it, and that's going to be much more powerful. And finally, pay the right price, use the price index, and see how it actually works for you. So with that, thank you so much. I think we have time for maybe 2 questions at the moment. Yes. Yeah, the question is, when should you start using influencer marketing when you're starting up? I think the question is, when should you start building your brand? And the answer to that is day one. If you don't start building your brand from day one, it's not going to work for you, right? So the question is, how much should you put towards it? That would be actually the question I would ask, rather than when should you do it. Typically, we've seen brands invest about 2 to 3% in their initial days towards influencer marketing, and then scale it up to 5 to 7%. And now some of the larger ones put in about 10% of their media investments towards influencer and influencer-led campaigns. But I would start at 2-3% of whatever pie you have. If you have 1 lakh, put 2-3% of that and start and see. Start small, but start with 2-3% of the media investment or the marketing investment that you currently have with you. It is very beneficial for a startup. You may go for a smaller creator, but it is obviously very beneficial to get that going. Yes. Yeah, so the Swiggy campaign was actually to, yeah, I don't know whether they have the video. I think they had some technical issues. It was embedded into the presentation. But you can check it out later. It's called the Swiggy Star Hunt. If you check it out on YouTube, you should be able to see it. But the campaign was really to engage with delivery partners. So what we did was, we created a contest called the Swiggy Star Hunt, where we went and told Swiggy delivery partners, show us your talent. And we had awards, we had trips to, I think, Thailand. We had lots of great prizes for that. But we said, show us what you can do. It could be dancing, mimicry, acting, anything that you can show on the screen, and upload those videos on TikTok. And we got a few hundred videos from multiple creators, and those videos actually got us 100 million views, which is essentially reaching other delivery partners and friends in their network, so that Swiggy can eventually recruit them to become delivery partners. And that's how we built that campaign. Again, one of the most successful delivery partner campaigns or the supply side campaigns that Swiggy has ever done on that side. Yes, I think we have time for one last question. Yes. Yes.
Do you think influencer marketing also works for B2B?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It does work for B2B, but it's more challenging. Also because someone who's an expert in your space is probably also doing something in that space. So I may be in the digital marketing space, and most digital experts will have their own solutions and own services. Why will they talk about me, right? So there's an inherent conflict of interest when it comes to B2B. But if you can surpass that, then there is an opportunity to do something interesting. And we've done some very interesting work even on the B2B side, but it is a bit more niche. It is definitely a lot more relevant for consumer brands. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone, and hope to interact more with you.
Thank you, Vikas.